Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So we have, basically adding insult to injury, we have a volcano erupting on Sulawesi days after we had the quake and the tsunami. So these poor people cannot catch a break, and now they have a volcano erupting over there. And this one spewed ash up to 4,000 meters in the air. The ash plumes are now moving in the west and northwest direction with an alert level 3 issued for the active volcano. And this is the Mount Soputan volcano. And so, they just can't catch a break from the natural disasters over there. And this is part of what I was touching on before in some videos. Basically, when are we going to, in these cycles that we're going through, going to say, some areas are just not safe for human habitation. And, Indonesia is getting slammed. And I understand it's not easy to just, pull hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people out of a particular area. And you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know, you're going to have a lot of volcanoes going off in the Ring of Fire. You're going to have a lot of earthquake activity. Sooner or later, you're going to have tsunamis going as well. So, what areas are not really going to be safe for people to live in? And that's just, that's something to think about. And we have a lot of areas here in the U.S. If you watched the show last night, we had one caller call in last night on the live show, and he felt so honest and so sincere, and he broke down crying because of, I guess, a message, a vision that he got, basically seeing California being devastated. And he said, he felt it was imminent through natural disasters. And we did have verification from another person last night saying that they were getting the same message as well. And so, there are areas that people are living in that are going to be very, very dangerous zones. Everywhere is dangerous with what we've seen. We've seen tremendous flooding in Minnesota, in Michigan, in Pittsburgh, in Virginia, all over the entire world. So we do know that truly, every area has its challenges, but some are going to have more than others, and some are going to be hit from all these different natural forces on a regular basis. And we have ex-Hurricane Rosa claiming lives in Mexico as it brings record-breaking rain to Phoenix, Arizona. And so the remnants of Rosa are moving through Arizona, causing widespread moderate to heavy rainfall. And for Phoenix, it was one of the rainiest days on record. And we'll see what the totals will bring. It did come on shore in Baja California as expected, and it's now moving through the southwest. And of course, in the southwest, this could be, as long as no lives are lost, life-giving because of the lack of rain that typically comes through. So when we get these inundations, they could be very, very beneficial as long as they don't come down with, such rapidity that lives are lost through the flooding. And everybody needs to be on a different state of alert when it comes to what is possible with these floods that we've seen and the rains that we've seen. These are different times, and we've seen so many people lose their lives, treating it as if these were perhaps normal times when they're not, and there's new normals being made. Right now we're in a period of transition, and we've seen so many record rainfalls, where areas get months worth of rain in hours or years worth of rain in a day or two. And that obviously can lead to hazardous conditions. And as we're talking about that, here's 6 months worth of rain in 3 hours. Unprecedented rain in Croatia, Dubrovnik. And as we see, those guys are wading waist deep looking to fix a diesel engine in a bus. This is the new norm right now. And a severe thunderstorm hit the city of Dubrovnik, southern Croatia, overnight on Tuesday, dropping 6 months worth of rain in just 3 hours. Numerous homes, businesses, roads obviously flooded. record-shattering rain, 10.2 inches, and basically between 0500 and 0800 CET time. That's more rain in just 3 hours than it received in the past 6 months altogether. So what can you do with something like that? Well, you just got to be aware that, expect the unexpected and kind of prepare for the worst. Obviously hope for the best, be prepared, and prepare for the worst mentally. So if you are in a city and you're seeing this type of rain come down, maybe get to higher ground, or be just cautious, be aware. Because again, these are new norms that we're starting to explore, and they are nothing like what we've had in the past. There's several videos for you guys to check out here as well and get a better view on things. And so we have Hurricane Leslie. And Leslie is just the absolute weird storm that has been just sitting in the middle of the Atlantic, kind of doing nothing, and now it's grown up to a hurricane status, and it's the 6th hurricane of the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season, which obviously the Pacific has had far more than that. Now, Leslie is really behaving very strangely, and so again, we are in new times. It's not like in the past we would ever see a hurricane develop this time in the season in this place, but these are not normal times. So Leslie is expected to basically turn sharp east on Saturday and eventually head towards the Azores Islands and then accelerate towards Western Europe as a potentially very intense cyclone. And it doesn't have to have 130 mile an hour winds or anything to cause damage. It's the water that's been doing most of the damage now. And it does have the ability to do damage with water for sure. So everybody in Western Europe is going to have to keep their eyes open and watch out for Leslie and see which way it heads. And of course, they warned us. If you remember, they were warning us at the end of last year, talking about how what's going to happen is these cyclones and these storms are going to just stall. We saw Florence just sit there. We saw Harvey just sit there. And many people don't believe that these are natural occurrences at all. And, we were told by the experts, these things are going to stall. And they're just going to sit in one place for a long time. And that's what we got. And, whether it's natural, whether there's interference going on, weather wars happening, we all have our own opinion on those things. But we are definitely seeing abnormal weather patterns and abnormal storms for what was the old normal, which has nothing to do with what we're in now, as we go into unprecedented territory. And that's what we have. Poland breaks all-time September cold record. They saw temperatures plunge to minus 7.9 degrees Celsius on Sunday night. And this is a new September cold record for the country. One of Poland's warmest Septembers ever ended with a frigid, record-breaking sting to the tail, serving as yet another example of the swings between extremes. And that's what we got. Extremes. As we see the frost, more damage to crops. And that's what we're talking about. There's some new data out here. And so we could see September 2018 ended up basically plus 0.14 degrees centigrade above this rolling average here, the running centered 13-month average. So the temperature is still above average, and this is satellite-based temperature of the global lower atmosphere. So, we have these conflicting numbers coming in, some of which still give a little credence to your, global warming people, some of which are still trying to blame it all on humans. And perhaps a lot of it is being really done by humans, but not in the way we expect, not you and I driving our cars, but in a more manufactured way. And then here we have Arctic sea ice volume, which we've been watching. And yes, way over here, when we were in June going into July, 2018, which is the black line, was starting to set the pace and set the record. And then things heated up drastically. And, it got to the point over here now where the years of 2014, the running average of 2004 to 2013, and now also 2017 all had more Arctic sea ice volume than the current year. So that would almost feel contradictory to a grand solar minimum. And I know some were expecting this black line to way outpace and should just kind of do one of these and stay way above the norm and set an all new norm. It hasn't happened yet, so we're still getting tremendous swings. And so, me personally, I question everything. And if you listen to me and Steve from WSO on our interview, that's the way you have to look at it. You have to be open to new information, giving us a new light on things, instead of just, basically believing in something in a religious matter, even if it's, science, and not wanting to look at any data that maybe goes against the mindset that you had. So what do we have? We have tremendous change. We have wild swings. We have a crazy climate right now, and we have the worst grain harvest in 35 years due to unseasonable weather in Denmark. And so the crops, again, crops, they're getting damaged tremendously. We can see it. We know it's coming. We're going to be going into living situations that maybe we haven't seen for generations as far as availability of food. So we need to make our precautions now. We need to do things to enable ourselves to have long-term food sources. And have a very good friend that has been taking classes out here in the wilderness, learning exactly what plants that are out here in the wild, in the Smoky Mountains, what plants that are native that you could actually eat, and what ones you could use for medicinal purposes. And you know what? That class was sold out with a waiting list. So there are a lot of people that get what's happening. They understand what's happening, and they're responding, and they're learning. And so, there are a lot of times very, very edible plants and foods out there that you might just be walking in the woods and not realize could support you in an emergency. And, we keep getting these things dribbling in. Dwarf planet, the goblin, new evidence for planet X. They're letting us know, Shirley, sorry for calling you Shirley. Slowly but surely, they are letting us know that everything that we've been kind of suspecting, they're dropping on us. And then the suspicious person has to say, well, is that part of a disinfo platform as well? So what is the true info and what is all disinfo? We keep getting more and more of this coming through. They're letting us know more about all the top secret military weapons and stuff, the lasers from the satellites and all these things. And they're letting us know more and more about the likelihood of there being these planets, perhaps stars, stellar cores that are in the area. You know what? Maybe all the legends are right. Maybe all the prophecies are true. Or maybe it's part of a greater disinfo. People, are definitely free to make up their own minds on these things. And, you have to discern for yourself. You must discern for yourself. Each person has to make up their own mind. So I'm not trying to convince you guys about anything. I just want to give you guys info and then make up your own mind. Make up your own mind. But the one thing I will ask is that people prepare, and don't do things that you might feel are risky, and as I've said, if you've crossed a particular underpass in the past and you could see there's a lot of flooding, the rain's coming down hard, don't try to cross it right now, because you might get stuck and then you might be swept away. And how many people have been swept away? The numbers, we don't even know what the real numbers are. So a new dwarf planet called the Goblin has been discovered at the edge of our solar system. The world's strange orbital properties provide new evidence for the massive undiscovered planet that astronomers call Planet 9. A previously unknown dwarf planet circles through the far reaches of our solar system. The International Astronomical Union's Minor Planet Center announced on Tuesday. Officially designated 2015 TG387. That's such a real romantic name there. The small and spherical object is probably a ball of ice. It's about 300 kilometers in diameter on the small end of a dwarf planet. The new dwarf planet is so very interesting since it always stays well beyond the giant planet region. Pluto sits at an average of 40 AU, astronomical units, away from the Sun. So Pluto is basically 40 times the distance that we are from the Sun. The Goblin comes no closer than 65 AU. The Goblin's orbit is very skewed. Only a few known objects in our solar system have comparable orbits, such as dwarf planets 2012 VP113, nicknamed Biden, I wonder if that's after Joe Biden, and Sedna, a large and unknown planet called Planet 9, or Planet X, lurks at the dark edge of the solar system. Could be shepherding these dwarf planets, directing them like cosmic border collie around the solar system's fringe. And so you see this. You see right here, they're giving you a picture of where the giant planets are, where the Sun is, and you have the Goblin out here, and you have Sedna here. And so, again, one of the obvious things is that there's a lot of binary star systems. So perhaps we are part of a binary or trinary star system, and that would explain all these things and explain all these motions. And perhaps stars move through the sky just as comets move through the sky. So, you know, one of the things I think we have, perhaps many people have a wrong idea about, is that somehow we're kind of stationary, you know, and perhaps that's not the case. And there's so much to explore with all this. But also, perhaps we're part of a binary or a trinary system. And that could explain a lot. So, snakes on a plate. Hey, if you're hungry and you're starving and, you know, grand solar minimum's got you down, Nibiru's got you down, and you live, say, down close to the Everglades, maybe you could catch one of these. And this one is not out of the Everglades, but there are supposed to be, there's these monster snakes down there. Locals feast on a python after a horror plantation attack. Look at the size of that thing. How much meat do you think is in there? An Indonesian man is recovering in a hospital after a bloody fight to death with a giant python in Sumatra. And so security guard Robert Nababan was on patrol at an oil palm plantation in the remote Batang Gansai district of Sumatra Island when he came across the near 25-foot reptile. And when the 37-year-old, who reportedly has experience catching snakes, attempted to lift the creature into a cloth sack, the snake struck, biting him with a force that nearly severed his arm. You know, would you go and try to put that in a sack? Not me. And I am not really snake phobic. But, you know, let's be real here. Local police chief Sutaraja, who, like many Indonesians, only has one name, said it was only the quick intervention of another security guard, as well as several knife-wielding local residents, that predicted him from meeting a grisly end, for sure. The python was unbelievably huge, as we could see. And so the villager's goodwill did not go unrewarded, however. As he was rushed to the hospital, his savior strung up the beast before dicing, frying, and eating its meal. So, yeah, they ended up feeding the village, basically, with it. It's amazing how big these things can be. And you know what? There's a lot of them down in the Everglades as well. Climate change threatens extinction, but some politicians only care about the next election. This is Ken Livingston. And, you know, he goes off on the traditional, you know, greenhouse gases, global warming tangent. But the reason why I brought this up was just simply because the statement is so damn true. And you could make it, instead of climate change, just say the earth changes. They are threatening extinction in so many different ways. And yet we still have politicians only caring about the next election and staying in power. And it's like, can't they not see what we are facing? We must change things drastically and absolutely rapidly if we are going to save millions and potentially billions of lives. We could see the changes that are upon us. It's nothing to sneeze at. And yeah, we need more people to say this in the major arenas. And this is out of Russia Today. But we need to do it. We need to demand it locally. And you know what? If the big central government's not going to do it, then take power away from the central government, give it back to the states, and let the people in the individual states make their own decisions on how to best protect themselves and their loved ones. And, how to spend their money, which is their time. Because, obviously tax money, it fuels all the things. So let's change our priorities very, very fast and try to actually save some lives. So while I'm not going to jump on board with global warming being all basically driven by your cars and all that, to me it doesn't really even matter. It's just simply we could see the effects going on, so let's make some changes. And if the politicians won't do it, then let's change them, who they are, and let's try to give the power back to the states whenever possible and take it away from the central government, because the central government has been growing ad infinitum. And it's becoming this big devouring beast that is so unwieldy and so ineffective. What good is it, basically? And that's partially why they try to keep us in fear, fear of whatever boogeyman it is. When the big boogeyman is staring us right in the face, and we need to make rapid changes right now in order to save lives. And we could save so many lives if we just change the way we work and way we think, change the system. And so we must demand that in any way we can. And I know that's easier said than done. I totally understand it, and I totally understand everybody's frustration with it as well. So this is off of the Organic Prepper. And it's 25 ways to prep your home for winter, because you know what? It is that time. If you're in the northern hemisphere, it is that time. And, as they say on the Game of Thrones, winter is coming. And we feel it. My God, do we feel it? Don't you guys feel it? And winter in the broader sense of the word. It's a winter in so many different ways. Yet the spring will arrive after it. And so we must always keep in mind, that this is a transitory period. We will get through this. So check your windows and doors. Make sure they're in good condition and fit well. Drafts will not only make you uncomfortable, but will let heat escape from the house. Now is the time to replace them if necessary. Reduce the draftiness of your windows. There's many ways to do that as well. Break out the heavy drapes. Heavy curtains are more than just a decorative way to welcome colder weather. When you pull them shut at night, they help to keep the warm air in and keep the cold air outside where it belongs. Use draft stoppers on external doors. Check entrances to the attic and the basement, if you do have an attic or a basement, and treat these openings exactly like exterior doors. Again, weather stripping, foam tape, blockers, there's many options. Make sure you have an alternative light source in case of power outages, and especially in these times. Solar lights charged during the days are excellent for children's rooms, bathrooms, stairways when night falls. Make sure you have good quality flashlights for every member of the family. Headlamps are great, and I love it. I have a couple of those. They're wonderful. Stock up on fuel for your fireplace or your wood stove. Obviously, make sure you have a secondary heat plant, just in case the power goes out, because it's going to go out at some point. We've seen that, with these storms, whether it's a big solar flare coming in, cosmic rays coming in, whatever is the case, the power is going to be out sometimes. So you have to be able to survive. Get a carbon monoxide alarm. Inexpensive devices can definitely save your life. Be sure that you get one that's battery operated, because if the power goes out, there you go, unless you have a generator and a secondary system. And do you have enough quilts or blankets? That could sound like a silly question, but I mean, can you keep yourself warm in the coldest of weather with no heat? Prepare along those lines. Make sure you have enough games and things to do. Books, perhaps, like what happens if we can't, we can't get on the internet and read a PDF or, listen to a show. I mean, do you actually have books anymore? A lot of people probably don't nowadays. Invest in cute woolly socks and slippers. Why not? Check your food supply. We've talked about this ad infinitum. Think about no cook food too. That's a very important thing. Do you have a way to cook if the power goes out? Think about it. Prepare for it. Maybe do a test run. Make sure your snow shovel is in good condition. Store some de-icing supplies, rock salt, etc. Make sure you have several good-sized thermoses. Keep lids on warm beverages. Make sure you have those. Stock up on prescription and over-the-counter medicines as well. If you rely on a well, you may not have running water during a power outage. Make sure to store drinking water and consider purchasing a water bob. These can be placed into the bathtub and you can use them to catch any of the water that might be remaining in the pipes and store it for emergency use. Check your pipes. Again, if they freeze, they could rupture, causing an enormous mess. A power bank is invaluable to keep your cell phone charged. Yes, as well. That's another item. Make sure walkways and driveways are clear of debris. Put candles on display and then you could actually use them. Decorate your living areas with cozy throws. And, as far as the candles, I use candles all the time. All the time. And they're just basically a regular in this house. So my guys, and my friends, my Evolutionary Energy Arts family, be prepared, guys. Be prepared out there. Be ready. There's so much going on. So much buzz about today. So much buzz about the coming week. No fear. Just prepare. Get yourself ready. If you're hesitating on spending a few bucks on some items that you should have, maybe just do it. It's better to have the stuff you need and to be prepared than to be caught, off guard, undersupplied, and unprepared. So as always, please thumbs up to support the channel. Thank you guys for growing with us and being part of this family. Join us for some of the live shows. Call in, take part, leave your comments, let us know what you're doing. Share with as many as possible. And we are so grateful that you're part of this family. May you guys always be blessed with abundant peace, love, happiness, and all good things, my friends, and kept safe. God bless and namaste.